Hey, YouTube. Greetings, class. It's Chris Haskins. We are here again on Sunday evenings. I have an opportunity to hang out with my man, my mentor, my friend, my person that I call every time I have a serious problem, Dan Borrero. This day, we will be bringing you just real estate investing information that we have been lucky to have survived. I've been doing it since 2004. Dan's been doing it since 1989, and we just want to share with y'all what has kept us in business. Is that okay? So it is my honor to bring with y'all again another Sunday showdown with Dan Borrero. Let's see where he is. Microphone roadcaster. How's that sound clear? Is it clear? I got some new technology I'm trying to test out. Good evening, Carlos. Yes, you're right. Real estate will drive you crazy. If you probably have, you know what? I forgot. We are bringing you on live. Let me put the link in the. I'll put the link in the show notes below if you want to come on live with Dan and I. This is the time we get an opportunity just to talk to y'all about what we're doing, and how we can help you just with your business. So let me put the link in the show notes below. This is Dan, no doubt, right here. Hey, Dan. Yeah, I sent it already. Oh, you didn't get it? Let's make sure. I emailed it. I can't text it. Hold on, y'all. Wait for Dan to come on with me now. This is him on the phone. He didn't get the link yet. Let me resend it. Oh, for some reason, it didn't go through, but he's got it now. So we would like to answer any of your questions. If you have real estate questions, entrepreneurial questions, if you have tenant questions, if you got landlord questions, all that stuff, I'll put it in the show notes right down below. Let me click it now. Join us to answer questions live. There you go. So if you go to the show notes below, you will see a link where you can join us and ask your questions. If you feel squeamish about coming on, just type your question in and we will get to that. Come on live. We will get to your question. Come on live to ask your question. There we go. All right, I put it in the chat too if you didn't get it. So what's going on? Very clear. Okay, cool. Real estate will drive you crazy. For my side of the business, we sold a property last week. And when I say sold a property, I want to make sure we understand what the definition of selling a property is in my world. Hey, Dan, what's up, brother?
What's going on, Mr. Haskins?
Good to see you.
Likewise.
So in my world, when I say we rent out a property, I don't want you to think that I am out here doing traditional landlording stuff. We do something called executory contracts. We sell them with financing and we sell them to tenant buyers that in turn pays us. They pay us a down payment and they pay us over time the rent. And in exchange for that, we don't have to do any repairs. We don't deal with any calls. We don't have to deal with anything, toilets breaking, none of that stuff. So just want to make sure we all understand, because I can be misconstrued as being a landlord. Like Dan and I, he looks like my bigger brother, but we run our businesses extremely differently. And I want you to know that both of them can work. Traditional landlording can work, or unconventional landlording like we do can work. But put your questions in so both of us can get them answered. Dan, what would you say to that? Talk about that a little bit.
What was the question? Let me ask you. Do you know? Do you remember? Well, look, Chris Haskins and I, we do it totally different, right? I'm a very traditional landlord. I'm the guy, you call the office, we send somebody over, if not that day, the following day, right? If it's an emergency, we will be there shortly. But that means that you're a lot more hands-on. The way Chris does it with the creative financing side, with seller financing, it's a total different animal. He's a lot less hands-on, but that's another reason why he doesn't have to really vet his tenants as much, because they got as much to lose as he does if they don't pay. So it's two different strategies. It's what works best for each one of us.
Yeah, either one, both of them work. So you got to decide, shit, which one's going to work for you. I think a lot of us get nervous and get stuck on like, will that work? Will this work? Just pick one of them. Give it a try. You gonna mess it up. Just give it. See which one works for you.
Pretty much, guys. We're all different. Like where Chris is at, most of his properties are single family homes because that's what's in his backyard. And where I'm at, most of my properties are multifamily properties. And it's not as conducive to doing seller financing as it is where Chris is at, right? Because most of the people who are buying from Chris that are not investors, they're end users. So it's a whole lot harder to get an end user who wants to buy a multifamily property. I mean, unless they were doing it as a house hack situation, but there's very few in between people. There's not enough of those people to make it profitable.
So I don't want to necessarily get into it now. I've still got my attorney team looking at it. Dan, we did have some type of legislation come down the pipeline in Virginia that they're trying to make us all wholesalers have a real estate license. I'm still researching on that. I don't know if you've got any input you want to put now, Dan, or wait till I get all that data.
I mean, look, every time the government does something, they think they're helping, but most of the time they're just hurting. But personally, if that's what I needed to be a legitimate, within the confines of the law, I'd go get the license. Look, the reality is this.
Just do
My
it.
brother and I, we have our license. We have the Borrero team. We just came in number 3 in Remax in the state of New Jersey.
Wow.
Right. And we didn't get our license because we wanted to be managed realtors. That's not why we got our license. We got our license because what was happening was we found ourselves walking away from the table because people were unwilling to take our number. But what we realized was, okay, you don't want I'm already sitting in their living room. Why not make it into some type of a sale? So when we got our license, now what happens is, all right, you don't want to sell it to Dan and Dave Borrero at that number, but guess what? My team came in number 3 in the state with Remax. Would you like us to list it for you? So having a license is not really that bad. It
Not
just
the end of the world.
opens up other avenues to make money with.
There you go. Yeah, I'm not mad at it, man. I ain't mad at it. So anything new in your world, Dan? Anything exciting? I got so much happening over here. What happened to you last week? Anything we can share? Wisdom? Get your questions on, y'all. You got questions?
Guys, I can
Please
tell
bring them
you,
on.
I had a very boring week.
Boring is good.
Boring in the sense paperwork through the wazoo. For those of you that don't know, any partnership, corporation, LLC, S corp, all those returns are due March 15th. Now, I don't wait until the last minute to do these returns because I have way too many of them. But I've got like 2/3 of my returns done.
Good God, Dan.
Yeah.
I dread doing this stuff, but it is.
No, man, I hate doing it as well. But it's part of any business. I don't care what business you're in. March 15th, people, that's the date.
Can you get an extension on that too, Dan, or no?
You can. I don't particularly like doing that. I read years ago how that could be one of the triggers to draw a red flag on your file.
Yeah,
I try to do everything in the time frame that I'm supposed to do it. And the reality is, I start preparing for this in November.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not waiting until, the 7th of March to get ready. I started back in November, right? So that allows me to maneuver and navigate the laws and whatever the tax laws are so that I could actually achieve my best tax implications. What's the goal? To always pay as least as you can legally. So that's what we do. We start in November.
That's cool, man. I wish I could say the same. I'm gonna be dealing with it all week. So I moved in. Well, Dan, for me, this deal. So what I'm getting into financing a little bit, Dan. I got some new guys that are doing new construction here. And they came to me the other day. They've got a bunch of real estate that they're building, and they're like, "Look, man, we're willing to pay X amount of percent. I don't want to tell everybody what the number is, but they're willing to pay for me to finance them to build." And remember, I always asked you why you didn't do that, Dan.
I'm actually, believe it or not, my brother and I just had that conversation yesterday.
Oh wow. So, well, let's talk about it, man. So they do 20 houses a year, right? These guys, and I'm like, man, if I've got IRA money and I've got all these other people that loan me money, and I only got like I have this many people that loan me money, and I'm only doing this many deals a year, right? I don't need to be doing 100 deals a year. You know, we do our 12 deals a year, and I'm good. So I'm like, I got more than enough capital. I'm like, why can't I just put the money up to finance these guys? If number one, they're putting down a down payment on the acquisition, they know what they're doing. I'm getting the security of the collateral. I get on the insurance, and I know they're buying below market value. Why not at least take a look at it?
And what did you find when you started looking at it?
Then, in fact, I did a 30-minute video yesterday. I haven't released it yet, but I documented. Then, I mean, they're pulling in $100,000 a house, and I'm like, why can't I just pull maybe 20 out of it, and they keep the other 80%? I'm like, it looked like a decent deal to me.
So your money's working for you.
Yeah, man.
Look, I want everyone here to hear, the conversations that Chris and I are having with you guys right now. How many people are on here, Chris?
We got 40.
Okay. The conversations that we're having right now, I try to tell people, if you're in a bad financial situation, you're never going to earn your way out of it.
Oh no.
What do I mean by earning your way out? No matter how much overtime you work, I mean, it may alleviate the problem, but it's not going to resolve the problem. The only time you could actually remove the entire financial problem is when your earnings start buying assets that create cash flow and appreciation. So what Chris just described is he's going to use his earnings to provide the asset, which is the loan, at a certain amount of interest, including points. They got to pay Chris points.
Whatever.
Right?
Profit. Yeah.
Right? Profit. Now Chris goes to sleep, and that asset, which is the loan, continues to pay off every month. So now, yes, he's still earning money. He still has his 9-to-5 job. But now he's got this asset that's producing cash flow. That's what's going to resolve the financial problem in his house. Not you, Chris. I'm just talking in general.
Yeah. So when I say, you know what, Dan, it's so weird. There's a book called The Speed of Trust, Stephen Covey. Even I had that conversation with you, Dan. What if you had 10 Chris Haskins? Not everybody's going to do everything right and do it the way I would do it. But what if I at least trusted the guy? What if I know, look, he's going to do everything he can to make bring this job in, right? As we say, can you bring the job in? Number one, do you know what the hell you're doing? So once you've got that trust, y'all, I'm like, why can't, and I know lenders do this. I'm like, why can't I just loan money to these dudes as opposed to going to the bank? So
you want to become the bank so you could have the marble floors, the marble counters, the $10,000 couch, right? Leather couch,
that's right.
The mahogany walls.
So what did you come up with between you and your brother, Dan? What did y'all discuss? Because in my opinion, that would be for you, it's just a no-brainer.
We're actually meeting with somebody on the 13th. We're meeting with 2 people on the 13th so we can get some more guidance.
Got it. What do you mean? You already know what you're doing. You ain't like you got to get no...
Yeah, it's still, bro. I'd rather go to the people that this is all they do 24/7 and learn from them a little bit more.
They loan out money?
Yes, they do. Yeah,
I got it.
And they've agreed to pretty much open up the books and say, this is how we do it.
Got it. That's pretty cool right there.
Yeah, so I don't want to go reinvent the wheel. I want to manufacture the same wheel. It's a whole lot less manufacturing time.
So come on live with us. There's a link right there in the show notes. You can hit that button and get your questions in for Dan Borrero and I regarding what you're doing in your business. Are you doing traditional tenants? Are you doing new construction? Darling, did I say new construction? No. I said their profit is about 100,000 and I just want a piece of it. So what I learned, let me tell you what I've learned, darling. For me, I want Dan to chime in too. I like to have a little bit of a lot of deals. That's my philosophy, right? If I can make 10 to 20,000 on your deal, then I got 5 of those going at once where I only spend a few hours a year in that That's what I want for my life. That's just one of the things that I've always wanted.
Yeah,
So Dan, talk
and
about that.
I'm with you, man. So basically, you're happy with the base hits and the doubles.
Well, I don't know if it's something in my mind. I don't mind. Well, I'm already getting grand slams on my own deal. I mean, it's not like
Exactly. So that, but again, the way I look at it in this business is any business. You're not always going to hit a grand slam when you get up at the
oh
bat.
no.
When you get up to bat. But you know what? If I could get a base hit every time I go to bat, I'd be extremely happy because eventually those base hits start creating runs.
Oh yeah,
You know,
big time. So if I could just my problem, the biggest problem, and Dan talks about this every time we talk offline, is the borrower. Like I can come up with the money. Like Dan, coming up with the money is like the least of my concerns. Number one, do you have a good deal? Number two, do you know what the hell you're doing? Number three, do you have some money to put in yourself? Right? We want these things. You got to pass these things before we
people come to me and they say they ain't putting up any money or they don't want to put 5%. I'm like, yeah, I can't do that.
No way.
I need you to be in the game. If you have a lot to lose, I'm not going to lose. If I lose, it's going to be because you truly couldn't do any better, not because of lack of effort. So if you come to me and tell me you want 3% into the deal, 5%, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Go someone else.
It's nothing personal, but Dan, when we look at I want to know Dan's, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, even if you screw the job up, I know I've got the expertise to bring it in. Whether say if I'm only in it for 60%, if you go out there and mess it all up, or get hit by a truck or struck by lightning,
we can figure it out quickly.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, me and my team, we're gonna boom, 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 get it done. So that's another thing you got to think about when you're going into these deals. No Shay. Do you need a special certification to loan finance construction?
I've loaned money. Very rare. Doesn't happen often. My understanding, I don't need a license, no, because it's a loan. But I do have my attorneys prepare the mortgage and the note.
There you go. Do you need a certification? Eventually, if you're doing enough of them, obviously. But if you're just doing a partnership,
I would assume you do.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Deborah, I purchased my home in 2017. Good for you. Paying down debt while studying with you guys to purchase my first investment. Good for you. Are you a debt pay downer guy, Dan, or are you a guy that wants to invest in the stock market with the profit? Which one are you?
I've done both.
Okay.
I kind of split it.
Got it.
What I normally do is this. Let's say I made $100,000 on a flip. I'm going to take $38,000. I'm going to put that into a separate bank account. I call that my tax man account, right? Because at the end of the quarter, whatever's in there, I send it to him in taxes, estimated taxes.
Give it up.
Now that other $62,000, I'm going to keep adding to it until it gives me a significant down payment of at least 35-40%, so I could use it on buying another building in New York. But I haven't really been buying in New York. I've been buying more in Florida. But now in Florida, when I buy those with those numbers, most of the time I come in all cash as a result of me piling up my cash in that one account when I do my fix and flips. Now, there are times where I've said, you know what? There's not enough deals out there, but I can't just leave my money sitting in the bank making 5%, 4%. I'll go buy certain stocks.
Got it.
I like to buy index 500 stocks with Vanguard.
I've heard about them. Never did it before, but I've heard about it.
Yep.
Dan, what's your opinion on buying promissory notes? Oh man.
I've never done it. I've sold notes, but I've never bought notes.
Yeah, I think the note business is the best business in town, y'all.
Hold on, Chris. I actually did buy one note, but I bought it because I wanted to use it to foreclose on the lady because she had the lot next to me. And she had not been paying the note for 7 years.
That's sharp.
Yeah.
That's sharp. Yeah, I'm not mad at buying notes. Make sure that you know what you're doing. You're buying below market value. So, Dan, what do you think about this, man? House rich Americans sitting on $30 trillion in home. Did you know this, man?
I've seen so many people have sent me this article. So many
Really?
people. Yeah, gosh. Yeah. I think they're selling what they were selling in 2007, 6, 2005. Do not fall into the trap. Do not fall into the trap. I will bet my right arm that the banks are behind
The
this
banks.
article
Let's
to
see.
encourage you to go get a loan that you can't afford.
That's how they make their money, right?
Yeah.
These
You
banks
know,
sneaky, Dan.
I'm not telling you not to tap into your equity, but you got to be careful. So that's like a HELOC, home equity line credit. They're great for people like Chris and I, where what happens is you go, the bank gives you a line of credit against your house on subject, based on the equity that you have. And then they give you this checkbook, but basically it's like having a savings account, and you could use it for whatever that amount is that they give you. And I've seen so many people go out and they put in a new lanai in their house, a beautiful pool, PVC fencing. They'll go on vacation. They get new furniture, or they'll do something in the house that they could never afford to do until now. But what they don't realize is that none of those consumer goods creates cash flow to pay back that loan.
Mhm.
So, do I have a home equity line? Sure, I do. Do I use my home equity line? Absolutely. But it's never on something for my personal wants. It's always about what my business needs or wants,
You got
never
to
my
know that,
personal
y'all.
wants.
You got to do that, yeah. Dan, is that a muscle and a habit that you had to get some reps in to do that over time?
Man, I got to tell you the truth. I had that habit since I was young. Thank God my father and my mother used to teach us that. But I see it being a whole lot more challenging for some people than others.
Dan, when I got my first home equity line of credit, I found out. You know what they did? Their lender, they called me. I don't know how they got me. They called my phone number, and they said, "We've got an appraisal here. Uh, one of those appraisals or something."
Yep.
I had paid 97,000. They told me your home was worth 215. Would you like $12,000 line of credit?
Yeah.
What new financially illiterate person would say no to that?
I don't have a problem getting a home line of credit. I have a problem with getting a home line of credit if you're not financially disciplined, because
There you go.
I see a lot of people make that, like a lot of those houses that people lost in 2008 was because they kept refinancing it because they could. They
Mhm.
bought the house for 350 and they owe 550 7 years later. How is that
Mm.
possible?
It's rough, man.
Right? I'll
It's
tell you how
rough.
it's possible, because they were consumers, right? They weren't entrepreneurs.
That's
These
right.
are people that consume, right?
You
And the reality is, I don't care what your nationality is or what your level of education you have. You don't need to have a college degree to be on this YouTube channel right now listening to Chris Haskins and I.
you got to know what you're doing. You
Yeah,
cannot buy.
take the time out and educate yourself.
You cannot buy consumable goods, y'all. If you use your equity, if you tap into it, please, my golden rule, we use lines of credit and home equity to buy more equity. That's my whole, if I want to use this thing, it's gotta be moving
And
over.
another thing, the other biggest mistake I see people make, they take a home equity line. Bank says, you could get a line of 850, 800, rather, let's say 85,000.
Mhm.
So now they go use that 85,000 and they use it as a down payment on their next property.
Oh,
But
to
that
live in?
property still has a mortgage of $400,000 balance. So that one property has to now generate enough money to pay the mortgage on the property and to pay back your home equity loan. Now, up until 2 years ago, that really wasn't that difficult because the home equity loans were hovering at about 2.5%,
Mhm.
right? But now that they're at 9%,
Get it
that's
up
a
there.
hefty note to carry.
But they can, long as they get it up. Oh, you're talking about if they borrowed it for a long term basis, not in
Right.
and out.
So
Yeah, that's true.
I use my loan as a bridge loan. Let's say I go bought
In
a
and out.
property
In and out.
for 300,000. I know the property is going to be worth 5 when I'm done with it, but it needs $50,000 of work. But I don't have the 50 because I used all my money to buy the property. I'm going to tap into my home equity loan, right? So now, after I renovate the property, I get it tenanted and I refinance it. let's say I'm into the property for 65,000. That includes my home equity loan. Bank says, but we'll give you 85. I said, I don't want 85. I just want my 65. Right? Why do I just want my 65? Because the reality is that the lower your principal, the lower your mortgage. So this was a 4-unit building, let's say. With 2 doors, I could pay the mortgage, the electric, the gas, the insurance, any minor repairs, the guy who cleans every week, the guy who takes out the garbage for me every week, and the other 2 to profit. So now let's say one tenant moves out and the other tenant doesn't want to pay for whatever reason. I got him in court. I'm still good because I only took 65% of the value.
Sweet.
So what I'm trying to say is don't overextend and don't buy the hype. Run your own race. Don't buy everyone else's bullshit on social media.
Chrissy says, looking to do a flip this year. I am an LD. Oh, what's LD REI?
I don't know.
4 doors in Ohio in 1 year. Wow. Got a struggle for 4 doors in Ohio. Kathy, tax deed sale is the way to go. We don't do those here. Regina, oh, look at that picture. That's a beautiful smile. What do you think about tax lien certificates, Dan? We don't do those here.
My attorney, Craig Sherrod, used to do them for me. I made a lot of money, but ever since Craig passed away, I
That's
haven't done
Florida,
anymore.
right? Is that Florida for you?
Yeah, because it's not the business I really want to be in, but since he was handling it all, I was good with it. But
Oh, you just put up
it's
the
not.
money or what?
Yeah, I put up the money. I would get the property would be in my name, and then he would do the legal work. So he would go out there. But this guy, he was an unbelievable man. This guy would have at any given moment between 600 and 800 vacant lots in his inventory
Good
that he bought
Lord.
at the auctions
Wow.
on tax deeds.
Okay, so you believed in the experts like me when I'm dealing with these builders.
Yeah,
You
I
following the
don't try to
expert.
do it myself anymore.
Got it. Nick, a billionaire told me, wow, to have multiple streams of income, but also said don't sell real estate as an agent. Just got my license because I already have a business. What are your income streams? Do you what income streams do we recommend? You want to go, Dan? Oh no, Dan, wake up. You falling asleep. Wake it up,
I
Dan. We have
almost
your
did. I'm
list.
sorry, man. I've been up since 6 o'clock. No, bro, I'm good. I just woke up. Sorry.
All right. So income streams for me, I have about 7, right? So we'll go. Oh man, I gotta put my hand up here. I do fix and flips. I do traditional tenants. I do seller financing, right? Those are my real estate income streams. Then we've got internet marketing. We've got content creation, right? Then I've got long-term traditional tenants, and I've got short-term tenants, right? So that's kind of ours. Dan, what is your breakdown?
Yeah, I don't have the extensive breakdown that Chris Haskins has, right? I have my income from the Borrero real estate group.
That's
Uh,
sales. Is that sales?
that's sales.
Okay,
Fix
that's the
and
big one.
flips.
Let's stay there for a minute, Dan. I don't want you to minimize that. That's representing buyers. That's not your
That
ownership
my
of real estate,
my partner takes care of that side of business pretty much, right?
but it's still
Um, but I kind of oversee everything from on top. I kind of feel like I'm the wizard with the puppets and the strings like this every day. I'm like kind of like managing everything, but the sales on as a real estate broker, realtor, my fix and flips, my long term rentals, and then of course we do manage properties for not everybody, a very small group of doctors that we have that we manage properties for. That's another income. And I don't have the internet sales yet, but by the end of 2024, that's what we're going to be moving into.
let's say internet. But what don't you do land too?
Oh, how could I forget the
See, you
land?
don't
But
look
I
at this
kind of
stuff, Dan. I mean,
that's
this
part
stuff
of the
is
fix and flips, right? Because
when
we
you
buy
fix and flip
land,
the land. You're not.
we buy land and then we do flip them, and half of those lots that we flip, we actually hold the mortgage on. So I guess you could that's another income where we're the bank.
All right, y'all. I think see the issue is when you're doing it, you don't consider it as another income. Yes, Dan, you're not doing no fixing up to that. You're just buying it and converting it into an income stream.
You know, it's funny. I tell when people ask me what do I do for a living.
A lot.
No, I tell them I shine apples.
What's that mean?
So when I was a kid, my father had a bodega. You know that, right? And my father would have my brother and I every morning. He would get 3 cases of apples, 48 apples a case, and we used to have to throw them in this big slop sink and wash them.
Darn.
And they'd sit there and dry for about an hour or so. We come back to finish drying them by hand, and then while I'm drying one, my brother's oiling them up with Western oil on a piece of paper towel, make that apple shine, right? Real shiny. And then he used to sell a lot of sandwiches come 12 o'clock. He had a big sandwich business. And he would display them on both sides of the counter like a pyramid. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful display, right? So he would sell each apple at a quarter. The apple costs us 1 cent, 2 cents, right? Because the labor was free. My brother and I were indentured servants. I tell my father all the time. So fast forward, my father goes, 5 years later, my father goes on to see his mother in Puerto Rico for a week. I tell my brother, we ain't shining apples. First day we don't shine apples, we sell only 1 case. Second day we don't shine apples, we sold a half a case. So now I got 4.5 cases of apples that I didn't sell. The third day, I started shining apples, and we went right back up to 3 cases a day. That's the same thing with land. I buy land. All I do is clean up the front of the land and slap a sign on it, take some pictures and put it on the MLS or put it on the internet.
Same land.
Same land. 2 weeks later, I'm making a profit on it. Chris and I, we buy depressed properties. We buy dirty apples.
That's
we
crazy,
wash the
man.
apple. We shine the apple.
That's
we
crazy.
Make money when we sell it. We're not doing anything but shining an apple. That's how basic real estate is. Shining apples.
I love it. I love it. Y'all get your questions in quickly for Dan Borrero. We got that. Nick, as an insurance agent and investor, how important do you think dressing professional is? Shirt every day. I work from home. Do you think clothes don't matter? Dan?
Look, if you're an insurance agent or you come to me in my house and you're coming in with slippers, I'm like, yeah, get out of here. You better be wearing some leather on those feet. That's a disrespect. That tells me you have no respect for me, right? I'm not telling you got to come in with a suit and tie, but you got to come in dressed like with at least business attire, casual business attire. Don't insult me. You know what that tells me? That tells me you're casual. You don't care about your business. If you don't care enough to present yourself well enough, why in God's name would I trust you with my money?
Yeah, that's true. I think it's a good point, Dan. Lamont, are HELOCs fixed interest rate, Dan?
I've never seen one that was fixed.
Variable. Even if it's not variable every month, it's going to be variable every quarter. Is it wise, Deborah? Is it wise? Get your questions in, y'all. Yeah, they're here. If you want to come on live, quickly, go down in the show notes, hit the button, and cut your camera on. Come on with us. Is it wise to get a HELOC for $100K to get a property for $75,000 that needs a little work?
It depends what your plan is. So let's say you're going to take the $100K, you buy it for 75, you spend 25 fixing it. What's your goal? What's your plan? Are you going to refinance it, get the $100,000 to pay back your home equity line? Let's say if the property, after you fix it, after you buy it, between fixing it and buy it's 100, but the after renovation value is 150, the bank's going to give you the 100. Now you pay back your home equity line, and that house has a $100,000 mortgage, but that's okay because the rent's paying it, the rent that you're collecting it. So basically, you got that house with none of your own money. That's a plan. But when you're going to buy that house for $100,000, between buying it and fixing it, you used up all your home equity line, and the interest rates go up to 9%, which is what it's at right now, versus 2 years ago it was at 2.5%, and your rent is covering the mortgage as if it was a 2.5% interest rate, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have a plan.
If I were to do that, I would take all the rent and pay the house off. I mean, I would want that 100. The magic happens, y'all. I'm telling you. I want to ask Dan. For me, the magic happened when I got all my cash flow and paid the loans off, and then we started collecting cash flow with free and clear cash flow.
Yo,
That
isn't that sweet?
shit,
Isn't that sweet?
yo, that
Isn't that the best?
But I don't want people to know it took me 15 years to get there, diligently, or even not only that, 17 years. So if I were to take 75K, I would buy a 75K, finance it out to somebody else, get a $10,000 down payment, and then have them pay me, and I would sock that away to the line of credit till I paid it all off, and then just cash flow 100%.
Yeah, but let's remember. So Chris is talking about, because he buys subject to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people giving him down payments because he's doing it as a option to buy, right?
Yeah.
I don't have that option because I'm not doing that. So, and what I love about what you and I, Chris, do every Sunday night is that people get two different perspectives on how to do this business.
Yeah.
And they both work. They both work.
Yeah. So this lady says, okay, so she said, Chrissy, I'm a long distance real estate investor, 4 doors in Ohio in 1 year. I don't know if I want you to keep buying, Dan. I mean, I really can't tell because 4 doors is a lot to manage. No doubt you're not getting 100% cash flow. You had to finance them.
So I don't have a problem with long distance investing as long as you develop the team. But in my experience, to develop a team in 1 year, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
It usually takes me to have a really good cohesive team about a year to a year and a half.
Shit,
And the only way to really do that is to buy 3, 4, 5 doors, 6 doors. So, and then what happens is that those team members are just like any professional sports team member. They're going to change every season. There's going to be changes in personnel, right, and players. A lot of times it could be the players aren't getting along. A lot of times it could be some players are a little arrogant. It's not within, or some players don't want to be part of the team with the structure that you put in place. Sometimes they may get sick. Sometimes they're going through a divorce and they're bringing that chaos in their home to the work site. So, what I am going to say to you is instead of keep buying, perfect the team, develop the skill sets with the 4 doors you have for the next year, and then go keep buying, because then you're going to make a whole lot less mistakes.
Don't forget, earning money is offense, managing money is defense. You have to understand that. You will never get wealthy if you just play offense. Doesn't work like that. Deborah, how do I choose who I'm going to lend to? We went over that earlier. Experience, great deal, a lot of security, bunch of equity, and they got to put their own money in the deal. I got a whole video coming out. Make sure you subscribe so you'll see. I'm taking you to the land. You're going to see the house, the site plan, all that stuff. You're going to meet the guys. Do I do meetups in Sacramento? No. Dan Sharit says, how do you hold a mortgage on land? That's a good one.
So mostly what I do with a mortgage is not really a mortgage. It's what they call a contract for deed. So we sign a contract, says you're buying this property for, let's say, $10,000. And you're going to put $3,000 down payment. You owe Dan Borrero $7,000. And you're going to pay Dan Borrero that $7,000 at this interest rate, at this monthly amount for these many months. And in that contract, it's also going to say there's no prepayment penalty. So if you say, I hit lotto last month, I'm going to pay you in full. No problem. You just forwent paying all that interest that you would have paid if you had kept the loan the entire time. I'm happy because I got all my money. You're happy because you saved a lot of money in interest. And then what I do is as soon as you actually pay me in full, we do a full closing with title insurance, and then where the deed is actually transferred to your name.
There you go. Contract for deed is an executory contract. I went over what that was. An executory contract is just when 2 people come, they agree on the terms, but it's not yet finalized until all the money comes in. So Dan does a contract for deed. It's opposite. I want y'all to understand what a traditional contract, like a mortgage, you get the deed and then you make the payments. On an executory contract is you make the payments, a contract for deed, and then after you make all the payments, and then you get the deed. So it's reverse of a traditional mortgage. All right. So y'all gotta. Dan's doing it, like he's doing this stuff all the time. So we have to just make sure y'all understand, because it's the same thing we do. He does it with land, I do it with houses. Same thing.
Yeah, and listen, and those people, they get an amortization schedule. They would get everything just like if it was a mortgage.
Yep, same thing, y'all. All right, that's it, Dan. Oh, one more I can explain. Last question. Let's get out of here. Anvil, can you explain asset-based lending?
You're better qualified to answer that question than I am.
Same thing. So Dan sells his properties, or he does the contract for deed. It's the same. See, I don't think people understand when Dan sells his land, he's actually creating a note. Like, it doesn't look like it, but he's actually loaning the people the money to buy his house, right? So he's really not necessarily, both of us, I'm not necessarily loaning them the money. Have you ever done a credit report on your things, Dan?
You know what? I have, depending on the deal size. So, you know, we did a deal that was like $500,000 once that we held the mortgage on 250. I did another deal where it was like 1.6 million. I held the mortgage on 800,000.
Is that
but on the smaller lots, like, you know, if they're under $10,000-$15,000, I don't care. I'm collecting, you know, a third of most of the time, about a third of it in principal, and, you know, as a down payment. And if they don't pay me, I'm just gonna cancel the contract. So, you know, I don't like doing that. I try to do everything possible so that people don't lose their money. But sometimes there's some people that can't be helped. They don't want to be helped.
So that is the definition. When Dan says, I'm going to take the property back if they don't pay, that is asset-based lending. We don't necessarily, we do care, but we don't necessarily, we don't heavily weigh the credit of the borrower, generally speaking, but we want to make sure that the asset is something that we can take back when we loan the money out.
Listen, when I do that with land, the judges are a whole lot easier and less likely to hold me back, because these people aren't living on it right now. When you're foreclosing on someone's house that they're living in with their wife and their kids or their husband,
won't do that.
The judges will try to delay it as long as possible. But with vacant land, it's like, either you pay or just sign over the deed. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I'm not loaning. One of the golden rules for us is we ain't loaning money to nobody that's going to live in the property.
No, because it'll take forever to foreclose.
They don't do that. Okay, listen, give Dan Borrero a follow on his YouTube channel. Give me a follow right here on the YouTube. Like the content. Share this with anybody else. You know what, Dan? I think I get to talk to you. I could call you anytime. In fact, Dan and I are going to a conference together in a few weeks. I take that for granted. And I just want to say to my people here that are joining us, you know, y'all, it's an honor to have Dan Borrero, because he could be doing millions and millions of dollars of taxes right now, right? I'm not trying to blow him up, but thank you for your time, Dan.
No, thank you for letting me be here. So, guys, I could be reached at all my social media links are at danielborrerojr.com. Chris Haskins and I are going to be in Nevada, Las Vegas, the 17th.
April
if you 17th. Guys are in that area, you want to come and hang with us.
Yeah.
Send us a DM.
Yeah.
Because we love, right, Chris? Whenever we go to these conferences, by the way, I want everyone here to realize Chris and I met at a conference in 2019.
We paid a lot of money, and we paid a lot of money for this one too.
Paid a whole lot of money for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So again, you get to hang out with us. Reach out if you truly want to, learn the business. We're going to be in that area. We're going to be in Vegas on the 17th, 19th, 20th too, right? The 18th and 19th.
17th, yeah, maybe we'll try to do a lunch and learn or something, or dinner or something on that 17th, Dan.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, everyone. So please, follow us both, and of course, see if you want to meet up with us. We're going to be in Vegas on the 17th.
At 17th of April, not March. All right, y'all. Much love to you. Peace.
Take care. Good night.